Hi everyone! The first DIY is going to be for a small witch gnome, and I'll be making her hat out of this small motivational cone from Dollar Tree. I was going to round the corners off, but then I decided to keep it the way that it is. And I'm going to take it outside and spray it with this Rust-Oleum Matte Farmhouse Black spray paint. For her body, I will be using this child sock, and I will be filling it with this basmati rice. I just have this extra piece of tubing, and I'm going to use that to help me pour the rice into the sock. You could also use a glass. And I'm going to tie it off at the top. You could use a rubber band. And for her hair, I'm going to use this green yarn that I picked up from Dollar Tree. I just portioned out strands into 2 sections and then divide those up into 3 sections and braid them. Then I'm going to tie off the bottom, tie off the top. I'll repeat those steps for the second braid. I'm going to take this Decor from Dollar Tree and I'm going to use it to make her witch broom. And I'll be using some leftover raffia from a previous project where I took all of the raffia bows off the little MDF pumpkins. And I'm going to straighten them out. I used 4 of them. I folded them in half and used one of the pieces of the raffia to loosely tie it together. I'm going to add hot glue to the end of the little bone and insert it into the top of the broom. I'm going to tighten the tie, and then I'm going to cut the broom down to the size that I want it to be. And because she's a small witch, I want the broom to be cut down fairly short. This is how her hat turned out. And now I am ready to hot glue her braids to the body. Dollar Tree has a lot of different colored yarn, so you could use whichever color you would like for your little witch gnome. Now I'm going to put her hat on to help me determine where her nose should be. And I'm just using one of the split wood beads unpainted to be her nose. I'll be making 3 witch gnomes today, and she's going to be sort of the youngest one. So she doesn't have a green nose yet. Her hair is green, but not her nose. Now I'm going to glue her hat on. And I decided to hot glue the ends of her braids to her body, and that's how she looks so far. I'm gonna go ahead and hot glue her broom to her body. For the medium-sized witch, I'm going to use one of these floral foam pieces from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint it black with black acrylic paint that I also picked up from Dollar Tree. To paint the ends, I inserted a bamboo skewer. While it dries, I'm going to take a piece of poster board. I cut it into a rough oval shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to bend it in half and snip it. Then I'm going to bend it the other way and snip it again. Now I'm going to cover it in this black felt from Dollar Tree. You'll see me only covering up one side here, but I do ultimately cover the bottom part as well. So the parts that you can still see the poster board, I do cover with more black felt. Then I'm going to cut a corner off of the poster board, and this is going to be to shape her hat. All of their hats are going to be different. This witch's hat is going to have sort of it's a weird shape. I don't know what to call it. But as you can see, it's not quite a cone and it's not quite a square. I did cut into the felt. Now I'm ready to add the cone part of the hat. And I took a scrap piece of felt, I'm folding it into thirds. And this is going to be to form a little band around her hat. I'll be using this Kelly green paint on this part. I added a split wood bead to the end of a large craft stick from Dollar Tree. And then I added another bead of hot glue right on top. And I'm going to let that dry down. This is going to be her nose. And that hot glue is going to be a wart on her nose. So once that glue has dried, I am going to paint the nose with the Kelly green paint. This is how the body turned out. I'm going to take a sock from Dollar Tree. This is a boy's sock, and cover the foam. I have the elastic covering the bottom without going underneath the floral foam. You can see it's right on the edge. I just use a piece of the green yarn to tie off the top, and I'm going to take the heel of the sock that's poking out there and just hot glue it flat to the rest of the body. For her hair, I'm going to use this craft faux fur. I picked this up from Joann's Fabric last year around Christmas time. You always cut this type of fabric from the back, and I'm going to cut it where it's wider at the bottom and more narrow at the top, just like the body of the witch is, and use hot glue to attach it to the form. I used hot glue to attach it to the form. Now I'm going to put her hat on, and this is again going to help me determine where her nose should be glued on. So after the nose has dried, it peels off from the craft stick very easily. You only want to use a literal dot of hot glue to glue it to the craft stick because you want it to be easy to peel off. Then you want to decide where you want the little wart on her nose to be. I decided that I wanted it to be on her left side. So I'm just going to hold it there and use hot glue to attach it. For her hat, I took a piece of white yarn and spiraled it down from the top. I made a spider using a black pom-pom and a black pipe cleaner. Now I'm using florals from Dollar Tree, the Halloween florals, and some of the creepy cloth in black. to embellish her hat even more. That's how it looks so far, and I did end up adding even more to her hat. I took a large craft stick from Dollar Tree and I cut it down into 2 parts. I'm going to use the same Kelly green paint to paint the rounded parts. These are going to be her hands. Once that dries, I'm going to cover the rest of her hands with black felt. So that's how her hands and arms turned out. Now I'm going to take one of these cauldron buckets from Dollar Tree and I'm going to hot glue her hands to the cauldron because I want her to be holding the cauldron. These little buckets are plastic, so it's not going to be too heavy. Then I'm going to add hot glue to the ends of the arms and attach them to the rest of her body, and I held it in place until the hot glue dried. I'm going to take one of these magnetic tin tops and I'm going to use a straight edge to cut out the clear plastic part. And I want it to be large enough to fit over the top of the cauldron. So don't cut it too small. And then I'm going to put hot glue on it and attach these little iridescent beads. And that's what it should look like. And then I'm going to use hot glue to attach it to the cauldron. So she'll have a little cauldron bubbling up with her spell. Now for our last tall witch, she's going to have a very tall hat. I used the same process that I did with the previous witch, except for this time, this witch has a very tall cylindrical hat. And now I am attaching it to the brim of the hat. I'll be using more florals from the Dollar Tree, as well as a plastic spider that comes with the florals. And I'll be adding those to her hat, as well as this really pretty purple and black sparkle mesh. It has a cobweb design on it. And this adheres to the felt really well. It sort of just blends in and looks like it's a part of the felt. This also comes in silver and gold as well, I believe. I'm going to use the purple floral with a little eyeball in it. I used some of the glittered black ribbon for the band of her hat. I'm attaching the plastic spider, and I also added one of the black roses from the other floral, as well as these little plastic floral pieces and one of the glittered foam skulls. For her body, I decided to cover it in felt instead of using a sock. So I just use hot glue to attach that, and then I cut the felt down to size so that it will sit flat. I'm going to give her a cape by using some of the creepy cloth from Dollar Tree. So I just hot glued it at the top, and then I'm going to cut it down to size. For her hair, I'm going to use one of these headbands from Dollar Tree. I actually used 2 of them because they're rather thin. I tied off a piece using a black pipe cleaner. Then I cut the hair and finished wrapping it with the black pipe cleaner. I'm going to add hot glue to the top to help keep the hair in place. And once that dries, I'm ready to add it to the rest of the body. As you can see, I did add one already, and I'm going to add this one to the other side. It looks like it's pink. It was because I was wearing a pink shirt and it was reflecting the color of my shirt, but it's white. Going to cut the hair down to the length that I want it to be. For her nose, I had the option of using one of these large wood beads or another one of the split wood beads. This one has a little bit of a flat top to it. And I'm going to cover it with the green felt from Dollar Tree. I decided to go with the split wood bead, and that's how it turned out. And again, I add the hat so I know exactly where I want the nose to go. And that's how she looks. I did add more to her hat later on. I'm going to take one of these brooms from Dollar Tree and I want to add something to the middle. So they have these little skull and bone necklaces, and I decided to take one of the skulls from the purple necklace and add it to the center of her broom. And then I'm going to hot glue the broom right across her body. Our next DIY is going to be a haunted tree, and I'm going to take one of these inserts from a foil wrapper. They're just more sturdy. I have 4 of these branches from Dollar Tree and floral tape, and I'm going to use an awl. You can use whatever sharp object you have, and I'm just going to punch holes into the roll and make them large enough for the branches to fit inside of them. So because I have 4 of these branches, I'm going to make 4 holes going all the way around. I won't be using hot glue to attach the branches because they are very secure inside of the holes. So I'm just going to remove the tags and insert them. The last hole I made was a little too high, so I made another one a little lower, and it's just going to make the rest of the tree more cohesive. Now I'm going to wrap the entire thing in floral tape. And that's how it turned out. I'm going to use one of the little pails from Dollar Tree and some floral foam. I'm going to paint the tree, the trunk of the tree, with black acrylic paint. And once it's dried, I'm going to insert it into the foam inside of the pail. It was a little wobbly, so I added some paper towels on either side to make it stand up straight. You could just use more floral foam or plastic bags. Then I'm distressing the pail with some leftover black acrylic paint, just whatever was on my brush. I used another one of the children's sock to cover up the bottom of the tree, and then I added some more creepy cloth on top of that. You get a lot of mileage out of these cloths. And then I added various items to the tree. And I added even more. I made a trip to the 99-cent store and they had more things, so I added even more than what you see here, and you will see that at the end during the reveal. But for now, this is how it looks. For our final DIY, we're going to make a Halloween wreath and pumpkins. I'm going to use this 12-inch bamboo wreath form from Dollar Tree, and these are some initialed pumpkins. I'm going to take them all out and spray paint them with the same matte farmhouse black paint from Rust-Oleum. After they've completely dried, this is how the wreath turned out. And I wanted to add one of these owls, but I spray painted it as well in the same farmhouse black paint. Now I'm going to add some of the Halloween roses to the top of the wreath form. Of course, you could use so many items for this. You could use more of the branches like the ones we used on the tree. You have a lot of options. I removed the eyeball from the flower and I placed it right in the center of the wreath so it's looking straight out. And I didn't need any glue because it's already on a pick. I just inserted it into the wreath. And now I'm going to use some hot glue to add the owl to the bottom. And now we are ready to see how all the projects look together. I love the way these witches turned out. As you can see, I added more beads to make it look like her cauldron was bubbling over. And I put a little LED light underneath to look like the flame that's cooking the spell. How do you guys think this witch turned out? As you can see, I added a glittered ribbon bow to her hat. There's the little spider that I made. And I made sure to fluff her hair out to give it some character. Here are our other two witches standing over a book of spells. This one is our smallest witch. She was the first one that we made. I added some black paint to help distress her broom, and this is how her hat turned out. I also added one of the skull beads from the necklace to the end of her broom. And the last witch is the tallest witch. And this is how her hat turned out. I added a bow made from the creepy cloth. I added a skull to the end of her broom as well. Drop a comment below and let me know which of the witches is your favorite. Here is our creepy haunted tree. I found those bat picks and florals from the 99-cent store, so I added them as well. And I did splay the branches out so it made the tree look bigger. I added some of the little hands, skeleton hands from Dollar Tree. And also I put some of the black LED candles around it. If you want to, you can paint the pale black, but I thought the red pale was appropriate. It is a Halloween project. And right above that is our Halloween wreath with our black bamboo wreath and Halloween florals, a creepy little eyeball looking out at us, and a Halloween owl keeping watch. And it's a wreath. You can make it as extravagant or as simple as you want it to be. I added a bit of crepey cloth to it to help tie it together with everything else. Here are 3 witches together. Don't forget to comment below on which one of the witches is your favorite. And I thought the welcome sign with the potion bottles from Dollar Tree was the perfect accent for this week's DIY. I wanted to show you how the pumpkins turned out. And they really don't need anything else. You could add a bow using the glittered ribbon or the black and white buffalo check ribbon from Dollar Tree. For this project, in this setting, I think they stand alone on their own very well. And just in case you're curious to see what the other side looks like with the initials, I turned them around to show you how that turned out. Drop a comment below and let me know how you think the pumpkins turned out. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. It does help my channel out so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you all are staying safe and are well. And I'll see you in my next video. Take care, everyone. Bye.